If you want to build a life of lasting wealth, peace, and power, then the first discipline you must master is this. You cannot allow your emotions to dictate your decisions, especially when it comes to money. More men have been driven into financial slavery not by ignorance, but by impulse. Not by lack of opportunity, but by lack of discipline. The habit of emotional spending, of buying to soothe rather than to build, is one of the most seductive traps of the modern world. It disguises itself as freedom, but leaves you in chains. It calls itself reward, but it delivers regret. Let us speak plainly. Money is a spiritual tool. It responds to order. It responds to intention. It multiplies in the hands of the focused and flees the hands of the frantic. When a man is ruled by emotion, especially fear, insecurity, envy, or pride, he becomes a slave to appearances. He begins to spend not from wisdom, but from the need to prove, to numb, or to impress. And in doing so, he trades his long-term vision for short-term validation. This is the beginning of debt, not just financial, but spiritual. Because every purchase made out of alignment costs more than dollars. It costs energy, it costs integrity, it costs identity. Debt is not just the result of numbers on a statement. Debt is the physical evidence of misaligned belief. It is proof that a man has not yet decided who he is. Because once you know who you are, you stop trying to buy your way into confidence. You stop trying to dress your way into significance. You stop trying to spend your way into belonging. And you begin to build habits, build skills, build reserves, build peace. But let's talk about why this happens. Most men were never taught how to think about money. They were trained by culture, not by principle. Culture says, if you feel bad, buy something. If you feel bored, buy something. If you feel insecure, buy something. And so emotion becomes the driver and money becomes the passenger. But money was never meant to follow emotion. Money was meant to follow vision. And when vision leads, order follows. When emotion leads, chaos follows. The man who spends to satisfy emotion is always poor, no matter how much he earns. Because he's not operating from identity, he's operating from instability. He doesn't ask, does this align with my values? He asks, will this make me feel better for now? And the tragedy is that the relief never lasts. It fades, and the guilt sets in, the shame arrives, and the cycle continues. But the wise man, the one who builds generational wealth, the one who lives in peace, the one who walks with authority, he has learned to pause. He has learned to separate emotion from execution. He doesn't let impulse rob his destiny. He sees money as a servant, not a savior. He spends from purpose, not from pain. And because of that, he gains control not just of his finances, but of his life. Ask yourself, how many times have you made a financial decision from emotion? How many times did you try to escape pain with the purchase? How many times did you spend to impress people who weren't even paying attention? And where did that lead you? Not to freedom, not to fulfillment, but to frustration. Because money cannot fix what only character can heal. The truth is this. Wealth is not about what you accumulate. It is about what you retain. You can earn 6 figures and still be broke if your emotions are in charge. You can win the lottery and still end up in poverty if your identity hasn't shifted. Because money doesn't change who you are, it amplifies it. And if your emotions are undisciplined, money will only make the problem worse. So, what is the solution? First, you must decide, I will no longer let my feelings lead my finances. That is a non-negotiable. It is a line in the sand. You must become a man of principle, not a man of preference. Principle says I spend after I plan. Emotion says I spend because I feel. Principle says I delay gratification for greater gain. Emotion says I want it now, even if it costs me later. And every time you choose principle over emotion, you gain power. Every time you pause instead of purchase, you grow your authority. This doesn't mean you can never enjoy life. On the contrary, true enjoyment comes when it is backed by wisdom, when the bill is paid in full and there is no anxiety attached. When you buy from overflow, not from overcompensation, when your purchases reflect abundance, not addiction. That is the joy of wealth, not just the freedom to buy, but the freedom from needing to buy in order to feel worthy. You must get honest about your patterns. What emotion triggers your spending? Is it boredom? Is it loneliness? Is it the need to feel valuable? And what would happen if you learned to sit with that emotion instead of escaping it with a transaction? What if instead of buying a distraction, you built a discipline? What if instead of numbing the pain, you invested in a process of growth? This is the work most avoid, because facing your emotional triggers takes courage, but that courage is the beginning of financial mastery. You do not master money until you master yourself. The budget doesn't save you, the job doesn't save you, the raise doesn't save you, your identity saves you, and identity is forged in fire. It's forged when you feel the urge to spend, and you say no. It's forged when you want the applause, but you choose alignment. It's forged when you could buy comfort, but you choose to build character instead. You must begin to think long term. Every purchase you make is a seed, and every seed produces a harvest. If you sow from impulse, you reap instability. If you sow from wisdom, you reap wealth. There is no mystery here. The law of sowing and reaping is always in effect. And the man who understands this stops spending based on today and starts building based on tomorrow. You must also redefine what wealth means to you. For some, wealth is flashy, it's loud, it's designed to impress. But for the wise man, wealth is quiet, it is peaceful, it is private. It is the ability to rest because you are not entangled in debt, not enslaved by monthly payments, not working just to survive. It is the ability to give generously, to invest wisely, to live fully without the weight of regret. And that kind of wealth begins not with income, but with intentionality. You must become intentional about every dollar. Every dollar has a direction. And when your emotions choose that direction, you are being robbed in disguise. But when you choose consciously, deliberately, strategically, you begin to step into the role of steward. And the steward multiplies, the steward builds, the steward is entrusted with more because he has proven mastery over what he already has. This is your opportunity to shift, not just your bank account, not just your budget, but your belief system. You are not the man who needs to prove anything with purchases. You are the man who builds a legacy that speaks louder than any outfit, louder than any gadget, louder than any short-term flex. You are the man who knows that true wealth starts in the mind, grows through discipline, and lives in peace. Once you recognize that the source of your financial frustration is not the lack of money, but the mismanagement of emotion, you step into a place of empowerment. You no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstance, but a master of choice, and that is where wealth begins. Wealth is not just about accumulation, it is about dominion. Dominion over desire. Dominion over habit. Dominion over your emotional triggers. The man who cannot govern his feelings cannot govern his future. He will always be ruled by whatever stimulus is loudest. But the man who learns to pause, to reflect, to respond from clarity rather than craving, he becomes unstoppable. Let me tell you what I have seen in my decades of research. It is not always the most intelligent men who succeed. It is not the most talented or the most charismatic. It is the ones who made a decision to live by principle. The ones who understood that every emotional reaction has a financial cost. The ones who learned that saying no to a temporary urge is saying yes to long-term wealth, and they said it again and again until it became who they were. You must recondition your nervous system to crave discipline more than distraction. The dopamine hit of a new purchase is short-lived, but the peace that comes from mastery, that is eternal. You must train yourself to delay pleasure until it is earned. Because when it is earned, it is enjoyed with integrity, but when it is taken prematurely, it turns to bitterness. There is no freedom in unrestrained consumption, There is no pride in indulgence born from pain, but there is deep satisfaction in knowing that you have governed yourself, that your mind is stronger than your momentary impulse. Every time you choose not to spend emotionally, you reclaim a piece of your identity. You reaffirm that you are a man in command of his destiny, not just drifting with the tide of modern marketing, but directing the ship of your future. You begin to redefine what matters. You realize that peace matters more than packaging, that ownership matters more than approval, that building matters more than broadcasting. And in that moment, your financial decisions begin to reflect your becoming, not your brokenness. Understand this clearly. The credit system is not designed to make you wealthy. It is designed to make you dependent. When you allow your emotions to drive you into debt, you enter into a psychological contract. You are saying, I would rather feel good now and pay later. But that later always comes. And when it comes, it brings interest. Not just interest on dollars, but interest on delay, interest on stress, interest on the time you've traded for things that brought no real return. You must think in terms of return. Every dollar you spend must have a purpose. It must serve your vision, not your vanity. That does not mean you cannot enjoy life. It means you no longer spend for applause or escape. You spend from a place of alignment. You ask yourself, does this bring me closer to the life I've committed to building? And if the answer is no, you walk away. Not because you can't afford it, but because it costs too much in principle. Let me remind you of something. Wealth does not respond to chaos. It responds to clarity. When you are clear on who you are, where you're going, and why you're going there, your financial choices become simple. You stop trying to impress people who don't even know your name. You stop trying to live up to an image that was never yours to begin with. You stop assigning meaning to material things that have no bearing on your value. And you begin to spend like a man with a mission, not like a man running from his reflection. This is how you begin to rise. You take every dollar and you assign it to something that matters. You learn to say no, not out of lack, but out of leadership. You master your month before the month begins. You build reserves. You create margin. You pay yourself first. You learn to love watching your account grow more than watching your collection grow. You build systems. You live on less than you make. And you invest the difference into your future, not into fleeting feelings. Let me tell you, feelings are terrible leaders. They are inconsistent. They are reactionary. They are shaped by external noise. But principle is firm. Principle does not sway with the economy. Principle does not shift with your mood. And principle is what builds prosperity, not just in finances, but in life. The man who governs his emotions governs his outcomes. This is why emotional intelligence is financial intelligence. If you want to increase your wealth, increase your self-awareness. Know your triggers. Know your patterns. Know the lies you tell yourself. Know the moments when you are tempted to soothe instead of solve. And when those moments come, don't run from them, confront them. Sit with them. Ask them what they are really about. Because 9 times out of 10, the thing you're trying to buy is not the thing you really need. What you need is peace. What you need is direction. What you need is discipline. And those things cannot be purchased, they must be practiced. You must make financial discipline your default. You must become the kind of man who builds first and indulges later, who understands that money is not the goal, it is the tool to create freedom, to build impact, to take care of your family without anxiety, to give generously without hesitation, to invest in your vision without fear. That is the real reason to master your emotions, not just to stay out of debt, but to stay in dominion. Debt is not just financial, it is energetic. Every time you borrow from your future to satisfy the present, you delay your destiny. And over time, that delay becomes disillusionment. You start to believe that wealth isn't for you, that freedom isn't real, that maybe it works for others, but not for you. But the truth is this: you were never disqualified. You were just undisciplined. And discipline can be developed You must decide today, I will no longer be ruled by the emotions of the moment. I will no longer trade my future for my feelings. I will no longer allow the credit system to steal my peace. From this moment forward, I will govern my money with wisdom. I will lead it with vision. I will build systems that protect me from my weaker self. I will delay pleasure to protect purpose. I will live on less so I can live with more. And in that decision, everything begins to change. The urges still come, but they no longer win. The temptation still whispers, but you have a louder voice now. The old triggers still surface, but they no longer rule you, because you are a man in control, a man of vision, a man of discipline, a man of wealth, not because of what you have, but because of who you have become. By now, you understand that letting your emotions govern your financial decisions is more than a bad habit. It's a silent assassin of your potential. But let us now speak not just to the problem, but to the power you carry to reverse it. You do not need a financial miracle. You need a mental realignment. You need to install a new operating system in your mind, one that no longer defaults to escape, but to expansion. One that no longer bows to impulse, but submits to intention. The man who wins with money is not the one who always had more. It's the one who learned to do more with less. He is the one who took control of his emotional thermostat. He didn't let a bad day justify a bad decision. He didn't let loneliness trigger spending. He didn't let ego whisper, buy it, you deserve it, when the numbers told him otherwise. He didn't let envy push him into trying to impress people who weren't watching. He rewrote the rules in his head until the rules produced freedom in his life. The discipline you build around your money becomes a mirror. You start to see that the man you're becoming in your finances is the same man you're becoming in your habits, your relationships, your decisions, your future. Because money is not isolated, it reflects every other part of you. The anxious spender is usually the anxious communicator. The undisciplined buyer is often the undisciplined thinker. But the man who applies principle to his wallet begins to see his entire life come into order. There is a strength that is built in saying no, in walking away, in denying the dopamine hit that culture offers you in exchange for your peace. That strength begins to shape your self-concept. You no longer see yourself as the man who can't get ahead. You see yourself as the man who governs, the man who holds the line, the man who builds while others borrow, who saves while others spend, who creates while others consume. And let me tell you, when you become that man, the world notices. Opportunity seeks out discipline. Favor finds structure. Partnerships are attracted to peace. You'll begin to operate from surplus, not shortage. You'll begin to walk in rooms and speak with quiet authority, not because of how you're dressed or what car you drive, but because of the internal security you carry. That is the wealth the world cannot tax. The kind you sleep peacefully with. The kind you never have to explain. But this is not just about you. Because when you master your emotions financially, you change the inheritance of everyone connected to you. You stop cycles. You shift the pattern. Your children see it. Your friends feel it. Your family benefits from it. When you stop spending from your wounds and start building from your wisdom, you create generational freedom. You model what true prosperity looks like. Not flashy, but firm. Not reckless, but righteous. Not shallow, but spiritual. Debt thrives in silence, but freedom grows in intentionality. You must build your financial environment to serve your long-term vision. Automate your discipline. Separate your accounts. Name your dollars. Budget your attention. Track your decisions. Not because you're poor, but because you are preparing for wealth that lasts. And wealth that lasts is never an accident. It is built by the man who has made peace with waiting, who has realized that compound interest, financial and spiritual, is the fruit of patience, focus, and clarity. What you do not master will master you. If you do not master the urge to impress, it will become your prison. If you do not master the need to spend, it will rob you blind. If you do not master your relationship with money, you will carry tension wherever you go, even in seasons of abundance. Because peace is not in the amount, it is in the alignment. And here's something most people never say. Poverty is not just a financial condition. It is a mindset. The poverty mindset says, if I feel bad, I deserve to buy something. The wealth mindset says, if I feel bad, I need to become stronger. The poverty mindset says, I'm not enough unless I have the newest thing. The wealth mindset says, I'm already enough and the newest thing doesn't change that. The poverty mindset spends to be seen. The wealth mindset builds to be sovereign. That is what you are after, sovereignty. Sovereignty is power over your own choices. Sovereignty is freedom from the emotional roller coaster. Sovereignty is the authority to live without being owned by interest rates, late payments, and financial shame. And that sovereignty is not given, it is earned. Earned through daily discipline. Earned through small denials. Earned through hundreds of micro decisions that most people never see, but that one day become the foundation for a life of peace. I am not telling you to hate money. I am telling you to respect it, to steward it, to master it, before it ever masters you. Because when money becomes your servant, it multiplies your impact. It fuels your mission. It creates options. It gives you time, energy, freedom to serve at a higher level. But when money becomes your comforter, your crutch, your escape hatch, it enslaves you quietly. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to review every spending decision you made in the last 30 days and ask, did this come from vision or emotion? Then I want you to look ahead to the next 30 days and plan every dollar. Give your money a job. Don't let it wander. Don't let it escape your oversight. Lead it. Assign it. Build systems that protect you from impulse. Then install consequences for deviation. Because where there is no consequence, there is no commitment. And when you feel the urge to spend, pause, breathe, ask, is this about solving a problem or escaping a feeling? Train yourself to respond, not react, to choose, not chase, to delay, not destroy. And remind yourself every time you are building something greater than a feeling. You are building a life, a future, a foundation. You must also change what you celebrate. Stop applauding consumption. Start applauding control. Stop celebrating the man who spends fast. Start celebrating the man who grows slow. Stop idolizing the highlight reel and start honoring the man in the quiet, tracking, saving, building, sowing, investing, not for applause, but for impact. This is your charge. Stop letting your emotions drive you into debt. Start letting your discipline drive you into destiny. The man you are becoming needs resources, not regrets. He needs clarity, not chaos. He needs power, not payments. And you cannot carry both. So choose. Choose the path of restraint. Choose the power of principle. Choose the calm of clarity. Choose the freedom of future focus. Because the man who chooses to master his emotions becomes the man who leads his generation, not just out of financial bondage, but into a new era of intentional, prosperous, and purpose-driven living. Let this be the turning point. Let this be the moment you say, no more. And then walk that out with excellence. Not just for the money, but for the man you are building every time you say no to impulse and yes to integrity. Because wealth is not a number, it is a name. And that name is discipline.